breaking news right now on the war. We are tracking breaking news right now on the war in Iran and that looming deadline. This morning, President Trump is ramping up threats to launch a massive attack if Tehran cannot forge a deal to open the Strait of Hormuz by 5 p.m. The president posting on social media minutes ago, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will," end quote. Iran's leaders responded to Trump's other threats overnight, saying if more attacks are carried out, the U.S. will be blocked from getting oil and gas for years. Iran's president says more than 14 million Iranians have declared their readiness to give their lives to defend the country. An Iranian minister has called for young people to form human chains around the country's power plants ahead of the deadline. Experts warn what Trump is threatening could be considered a war crime if civilian infrastructure is hit.
Whether something is a crime or not a crime would have to be decided by a court, but any attack on civilian infrastructure is a violation of international law, and a very clear one.
President Trump has previously brushed off concerns about committing possible war crimes. Iran just yesterday rejecting a ceasefire proposal. The UN Security Council is set to vote on a resolution to unblock the strait this morning. We are
Shalom. Allah to say all praise due unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, peace and blessings to the elect. My name is Kanawak from GMS Toronto, doing this lesson. And it's regards into this whole war with Trump, this whole thing with America versus Iran. And Trump saying, within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, that if the Iranians, if they don't comply, that he's going to, he's going to bomb them to the Stone Age, which is not going to happen as of yet, because certain prophecy has to be kicked off first, and, it's not that time yet. What they have to do, they have to bring this whole, their whole enterprise where they could, they have this system, digitalized system. Mexico is already doing it. They're getting rid of cash, right? It's going to be a cashless society. And the ultimate goal is to have everybody C-hipped, right? This is the plan of the global elite. And the Russians, the Iranians, the Americans, the European nations like NATO, all these different nations, all these world governments are for this whole new world order, right? But these other nations, right, because they have to get rid of the American the petrodollar, right? So, because the other nations are tired of America. And once this whole NWOs are going to be accomplished, right? They're going to be fighting for power, right? And there's going to be war, right? And this is what they're fretting about. Let's get Job. I think it's Job. Is it Job 20? That's it. Job 20, and I started at 4. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite for a moment? So, they have their triumph, where the American empire has been in power for over 250 years. And let's go into this, because Apostle Tahar was going into it for many months ago, right? So how long has America been a country? The United States has been an independent country for 249 years as of July 4th, 2025, right? So now it's going to be 250 years since America has been in power, right? Starting July. The nation was founded on July 4th, 1776, while the Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence and announced separation from British rule, right? Because they separated. There was a war, like with America and Britain, and America, they got their independence. All right, 1776. It says 1781. Article of the Article of Confederation went into force, established the first central government. It goes into that, but let's go into this. How long does an empire last? All right, so this is AR overview. It says empire typically lasts around 250 years, although this figure is a suggested historical debate rather than a fixed rule. Right, while popular theory suggests 250 years lifestyle often cites regarding the United States trajectory, many such as Roman or Christian empires lasted centuries longer, while other collapsed in less than 200 years. Right, so the average span of empire is normally 250 years. Right, and America, they've been in power for over 250 years. So we're seeing the fall of the Greco or the Roman Empire, the Rome 2.0. We're seeing the fall, their collapse, right? And they're gonna go hard. They're gonna have a big downfall, right? The 250-year theory, many studies and observers often refers Sir John Bagot Globe's work suggests an average lifestyle of about 250 years. So yeah, this is like a Persian Empire, like Achaemenid and Persian Empire, 220 years, 750 BC to 330 BC. Roman Empire depends on metric. It spawned 900 years. That was when Jake was in power, that established that whole Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Empire throughout Europe. And Jake was in rulership for over 1,000 years. So the British Empire is generally considered to have held top power status for roughly 250 to 300 years. All right, so Seleucid Empire, 102 years. All right, so every empire has fallen. When you go into the whole the Egyptian Empire, right, where the Hamites, right, they were pharaoh, they were in power until the Lord delivered the Israelites out of Egypt and destroyed Pharaoh and his army, right, with a great deliverance. That's going to happen again, but it's not going to be the Lord is going to do a like miraculous miracle, man. Wisdom of Solomon 5. Right, he's going to gather his elect, the 144,000, the 1/3, and bring them into a fathership, man. right? So Job 20:4, knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. So this is, you have a short time to rule, man, right? And like how Esau sold his birthright to his brother Jacob, right, for pottage, for un uncooked uh, stew, right? Like you sold your birthright to your brother Jacob, and then Isaac um Isaac gave Jacob the blessing, right? And basically, like Rebecca, she used her son to usurp the blessing for Jacob. When you go into Genesis, I believe 27, right? And then Esau was mad, right? And then basically Isaac did bless his son Isaac. Sorry, Isaac did bless his son Esau, right? And and now you're living your blessing, Esau. You're living I could get it. That the triumph of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Though his actually mount up to the heavens, and his head reach unto the clouds. So his space stations, right? His planes, all these stuff, man. Right? You're living luxurious, right? Off of Isaac's blessing, man. Yet shall he perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? Right? So we're not gonna, after once your empire is gonna be destroyed, Esau, you're going to slavery, hardcore slavery, man. Hardcore bondage, man. Yeah, so this is basically when Isaac, because Isaac couldn't see, right? So Rebecca made Jacob inherit the blessing, right? Like supplanted you know um her son Jacob, right? So that Jacob could inherit the blessing of the firstborn, right? And it was set up like that in the spirit, and that's why Esau is mad to this day, man. Esau's mad because you did not inherit your birthright. You didn't inherit the blessing because you sold your birthright unto your brother Jacob. So we're set up like that in the spirit, man. So Genesis 27:37, Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants. With corn and wine have I sustained him, and what shall I do unto thee, my son? Right. So this is because because this is the blessing of that, that Jacob was gonna get. So Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, O my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So Esau was crying, man. Bitter tears. Right. So Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and in the dew of heavens from above. Right? So his space stations, all these stuff, his technology. And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy necks. Right? So the yoke is being lifted, right? And Esau is going to is gonna have a yoke put on him, man, and he's gonna go in slavery. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said unto his father, the days of mourning from my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. So Esau was had a disdain for his brother Jacob, man. Right? And it's like that to this day. So let's get Second Esdras. Book of Second Esdras. 6. Second Esdras 6, and I started at 6 and 7. Let me put it in the GNT. Let me see what it's gonna say. The GNT. One moment. Second Esdras 6. Second Esdras. Oh, sorry. Second Esdras. Sorry about that. Second Esdras 6. Second Esdras, let's go at Second Esdras 6. And I started at 7. It says, then I asked, how long a period of time will divide the ages? When will the first age end and the next age begin? Right. So we're seeing the end of the Edomite power, and we're seeing the end of their age, and we're approaching the new age of the Israelites of Jacob, right? And it's gonna be world without end, right? The Israelites are gonna rule forever, right? Under Yahushua, right? He answered, the interval will be no longer than that between Abraham and Abraham. He was the grandfather of both Jacob and Esau, and when they were born, Jacob's hand held first Esau's heel, right? So we're seeing the toes. We're seeing their whole foundation being taken out. Esau represents the end of the age, but Jacob represents the beginning of the new age, right? So this is the age that we're in, and Yahushua is going to gather the elect, right? And he's going to take away all dominion, right? I think that's Daniel. Let's get Daniel. All right, let's go Daniel 7. Let's start at 13. Right, because we're seeing the end, of America, right? And it's gonna go hard with a great destruction, man. So when Yahushua comes, let's get Daniel 7. I highlight this. 7. Daniel 7. Daniel 7, verse 13. The Son of Man presented. So this is, this is Yahushua. This is the big show that we're waiting for. That we as Israelites is waiting for. We're waiting for deliverance. And I saw the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man come with the clouds of heaven, right? So the chariots come to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. So this is Yahushua. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people and nations and languages should serve him, and his dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that shall not be destroyed. Right? So when Yahushua comes, he's going to destroy all their empire, their kingdoms, everything, man. And these nations are going to serve the Israelites. They're going to go into slavery, man. Revelation Revelation 13, and let's start at 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leave into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. So like how they led the Israelites in captivity, right? Basically destroying Jake that was in Europe, in certain parts of Africa, right? And basically started when the whole transatlantic slave trade, right? Not just through Africa, but throughout Europe as well, throughout Ireland, Scotland, England, right? And Jake was being brought to as indentured servant, as slaves, on cargo slave ships into the Caribbean, sugarcane plantation, cotton plantations, right? And also these different forts in like Fort Judah or Wuda, known as Fort Judah, Fort Benin, these different ports that Jake was being trafficked and being brought to the Americas as slave, right? So like how we went to captivity as a nation, you heathen are gonna go into slavery too, man. All right, on ships, right, and you're gonna be trafficked. He that leads in captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So it's you reap what you sow, man. All right. The Lord does not respect our person, man. They're gonna say, it was my father and my forefathers. All right, but you are your forefathers coming back. Is it Isaiah 14? I think it's Isaiah 14, I think 21. Yeah, prepare slaughter for the children of their and for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not ride nor possess a land, the land, nor fill the face of the world with their cities. And that's what they did. They they came over to the New World, America, and throughout Europe, throughout Australia, New Zealand, and they set up these different cities, man. Right? And they're prospering, right? So, so-called average middle class, or you Edomites, is catching hell, right? That there's no more middle class. It's either you're rich or you're poor, right? So you're gonna you Edomites are gonna reap what you have sowed. For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and the son and nephew, said the Lord. So that's going to happen once thermonuclear fire is going to be sent to this land known as America. All right. I didn't really want to go too long. This is pretty much just off that video of Trump talking about he's going to make Iran into like a stone age, right? It's not the time. It's gonna happen, but you have to bring this whole mark of the beast technology, the whole his miracles. He has to bring that technology worldwide, man. All right, and then this war will get more intense. All right, until Yahushua comes and the missile will be shot, simultaneously, and that's it. And the elect to be saved. Right, and this is what we're patiently waiting for, man. So with that, let us say our praise is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double arms pass a great millstone. Peace and blessing to the elect. Shalom.